Hello, so now we're going to begin doing manual lymph drainage for the left lower extremity. And before we begin, I want to show you a diagram that will help explain where the lymph fluid is going and why we're doing what we're doing. Initially, we'll be working at the belly. It's because there's a lot of lymph nodes and lymph vessels in our gut. It's more or less like a grand central station of where the lymph fluid and lymph activity is happening. So we'll be activating the gut. Next, we'll be working at the neck because a lot of the fluid from the gut then has to process up into the venous system or into our circulatory system just on the side of our neck. After we've done that, we'll be doing that through an exercise. Next, we'll be clearing the same side armpit area. We call this the axillary region. We'll be clearing this axillary region, and then we'll be clearing this whole side. There's a connection between the lymph nodes that we have in the groin and the lymph nodes that we have in our armpit. So we'll be clearing this side of the lymph vessels. Next, we'll be going over to the opposite side in the groin. We call these the inguinal nodes. And these inguinal nodes will be clearing this area and then moving the fluid across the lower abdomen. And then once we've begun that, we'll then begin clearing the left lower extremity. So let's begin. First of all, I want you to put your hands on your belly, and let's go over towards the left side of your belly, right between your rib and your hip. And I want you to take your hands, and you can put one hand on top of the other and just push that fluid in and relax, and in and relax, and in and relax. And I'd say if you can try to do about 5 to 7 times of this would be helpful, but just go in and relax. And after you've done this area, let's go right above your hip bone and in and relax. So you're just pushing that tissue into your body. Push it in and relax. Push it in and relax. 5 to 7 times above the hip bone on the left. And now let's go over to the right, 5 to 7 times above the hip bone on the right. And then once you've gotten the hip bone, we're going to go underneath the rib cage. It doesn't make sense to push on your ribs because you can't push there, but we want to go right beneath your ribs and just push that tissue into your body. So just push that in about 5 to 7 times. And then after we've done that, kind of walk your hand over to the middle of your belly and push in 5 to 7 times right here. And this is an area where you can push deep. You can push deeper than I was showing at the beginning of the intro where we were describing the stationary circles, because these lymph vessels in your gut are deeper in there. So we can really push deep. So we've done 5 to 7 times in the center, and then you can go 5 to 7 times just underneath your ribs on the other side. Just taking and pushing that fluid, the tissue in, pushing that flesh into your body. Okay, so we've completed the first component of our belly sequence, and the second component is with deep breathing. And this is a way where your insides are actually kind of working with the outside. We're doing kind of a pressure from the inside by breathing and pushing from the outside. So put your hands on top of your belly button, and I want you to take a good deep breath in through your nose, deep abdominal breath, and then as you expel breath, as you exhale out, push your hands into your gut. Push them straight back in. Hold that pressure and breathe in. And before you breathe out, I want you to move your hands over to the left side of your body. And now as you breathe out, push air in. And then hold that pressure. And just before you need to breathe air out, move back to your belly button and push in. Excellent. Okay, so now hold that pressure, breathe air in. And now you're going to move over to the right side and you push air out, hold that pressure. And just before you're going to breathe air out, go back to your belly button and let's exhale out. And then we'll do one last one. And exhale out. Excellent. Now let's work in the area above the collarbone, because as I said, this is an important area where the lymph fluid is going to be going back into your bloodstream. So to do that, I want you to sit up a little bit, and let's take a look at moving your shoulders up as high as you can possibly move them. And then I want you to bend them, move your shoulders back and down. So if it's easier to make your arms go out to the side, you can do that, whatever comfortable. But you're just going to go up and back and down. And if you're like me, you're hearing all sorts of creaking up and around, but just back and around, just up. Get those shoulders up as high as you can, and back and down. And 5 to 7 times here would be really helpful. Okay, so now we're ready to begin the clearance of our left lower extremity. To begin with, I want to focus on clearing our axillary region, our armpit region on the same side. So here, let's put your hand right in the armpit, and I want you to do a circle, kind of bringing the circle over towards your heart, towards your body. And you can go 5 to 7 times here. And then you can, if you want to move your hand around, because there are a lot of lymph nodes in here, you can work kind of in the upper arm region and moving that tissue in towards your heart. And then you can go kind of on the lower, on the side of your trunk, just beneath your armpit, and moving that tissue up. Think of this as a healthy drain. The fluid in this, the lymph nodes in this region are able and capable of taking on the fluid that's swelling up in the left lower quadrant, so we can effectively push the fluid going on up. Now what I want to do is clear the side of our trunk here. So first on the side by your breast, your upper chest, you can take, it might be helpful to take both hands. And we just want to move that skin upwards and relax. And upwards and relax. You don't want to pull it up and down. You just are looking at moving that flesh up and down. And in like a circular, a little bit of a twist with it is helpful if we can do that stationary circle. So once we've done that area 5 to 7 times, then move in the middle by your waist. And on the side of your waist, up and relax. Up and relax, and up and relax. So if you've done that about 5 to 7 times here, and then after we've done this area, up and relax, then I want you to work on the outside portion of your hip here, up and relax, and up and relax, up and relax, and up and relax. So we've essentially cleared this area up the side of our body, up into the lymph nodes that can effectively take on fluid from our left lower extremity. Next, we want to work the pathway between the lymph nodes in our groin. So let's have you put your hand right on the tissue here, right at the junction between your body and your leg. And some of this I think is helpful perhaps if you would do it in bed. When you're lying down, it might be an effective way to be able to reach all these areas. Whatever is comfortable for you, but sometimes in bed, a number of my patients have found that it's kind of helpful when you can do it directly skin on skin. When you can put your hands right on skin, you'll find that you can stretch your skin a little bit easier and you don't slide. So notice here, I'm just clearing the opposite side, doing a stationary circle where I'm going in, up, and relax, and up, and relax. So let's go 5 to 7 times on this side. And once we've done this, then we want to clear our unaffected side just above these lymph nodes. So here, take your fingertips, and we're going to be pushing that tissue towards those lymph nodes on that side. So we're going to go over 5 to 7 times on this side. And after you've done this 5 to 7 times, then you're going to go right in the center 5 to 7 times, just really trying to stretch the skin in the direction of the lymph nodes over on this side, the inguinal nodes on your right side. And lastly, on the same quadrant where you have the swelling, we're going to be taking that fluid and moving it across. And once we've come over here, we can follow up by pushing the fluid back over all the way across to the lymph nodes on the unaffected side. So we've essentially cleared between the lymph nodes in our inguinal region. We've cleared the area between our inguinal nodes and our the same side armpit, the axillary region, and now we're ready to begin clearing the leg. So to begin with, let's take a look at putting your hands on the outside portion of your leg. And what I want to do here is just we're going to look at this in 3 sections, 1, 2, 3. So let's take up at the upper portion of your leg, and I want you to take that skin and pull it up and relax. Now, this is a good point to focus on. At this point, you should know if you have primary lymphedema or if you have secondary lymphedema. If you have primary lymphedema, it's very effective to also take a look at pulling the tissue in the inguinal nodes here. We can actually work this area when you have primary lymphedema. If you've been told that you have secondary lymphedema, let's stick with the pathways that we talked about before of moving the fluid up to your armpit or moving it over to your groin. So here we are. We're beginning with the leg, and we're taking the tissue, we're moving it on the side. And you see here, stationary circles up towards my body and relax, and up towards my body and relax. And you're just going to keep doing this about 5 to 7 times here. And then after we've done this, let's move on down to the middle portion of the leg. We're going to go up and relax, and up and relax. And you know, I want to say too that if you find that you can't reach any further than this, let's say, you know, you just cannot reach beyond the mid portion of your thigh, that's okay. The compression that you're wearing will also effectively help get some of the fluid out of your lower leg. But also look at, even if I can't touch my knee, you can see that I'm moving some of the fluid around my knee simply by working on the outside portion of my thigh. So if I've done this 5 to 7 times, now I'm going to go above my knee. And again, I'm not sliding my hands on the skin. I want to really stretch those lymph vessels that are beneath the skin. So I want to take that tissue and just slide it to the max that skin is going to allow me to stretch. So we've done this, once we've done this side 5 to 7 times, then we can work on the inside portion of our thigh. And we can go in to out, in to out. You could maybe even do this, might be an effective way of taking that tissue and going in to out, in to out, in to out. And then we'll have some follow-up moves where once we've got the fluid on the outside of your thigh, let's carry it on up. And you might want to pause the video at this point and work it on up to the axilla on this side, or you could work the fluid across to the lymph nodes on the other side. So once we've gone down to the knee, this is a wonderful move where you take your 2 fingertips and you place them together. Look at how I can almost cover most of my whole knee region. And just very gently, without squeezing my fingers are relaxed on my hand here, but I'm here just to grip the skin. And I want to pull the skin up and relax, and up and relax. And this will generally feel very good, but it's a very effective way at getting the fluid from your lower leg, and especially if you're unable to reach any further than this, you are helping the lymph vessels in your lower leg. Even though you can't see the skin stretch as much in the leg portion or the lower leg, we're really working the lymph fluid in this region. You might want to follow up with doing some stationary circles on top of the knee. 5 to 7 times here. And then I would follow up with follow-up moves going up to the same side, armpit, axillary region, or over to the inguinal nodes. And this might be a good time to just put me on pause and follow up with your follow-up moves, going up to the arm, all the way up and across the body. Now, if you are able to reach beneath your knee, a very effective way of getting the fluid out from your lower leg is to work in this region. This is kind of called a bottleneck area. And so what we're going to do is just take that skin, and you're just doing a stationary circle here. Just stretching that skin beneath the knees and just really working this area. And after you've done a certain area, follow it up, carrying it on up, because we want to get this fluid out of this leg. So you want to follow it up by going on up your leg, up to your armpit, and across to the opposite groin. Now, if you're able to reach lower, you can continue the same move that we were doing behind the knee and just take that skin and pull it up and relax, and up, relax, and up and relax. So let's do this like 5 to 7 times here, and then in the calf part, up and relax, and up, relax, and up and relax. And we'll work our way down the leg on the lower calf, up. And again, our goal is to stretch the skin upwards in kind of a circular twist, carrying the fluid on up. And at this point, I would suggest following up with some follow-up moves, going up your thigh, up to your axilla, and over to your inguinal nodes. Now, once we get down to the ankle, this is a region that gets kind of tough, because if you are able to reach down here, put your hand, and you're just going to do a nice flat stationary circle in front of your ankle. And then on either side of the ankle bones, these areas can get quite puffy. And so you can either think of, stretching the skin this way, or using your fingertips, and you can do kind of a stationary circles with your fingertips. And if this is a problem area for you, I would suggest kind of working this area a little bit longer if you're able to reach down here. Just really stretching that skin until you can feel that it's loosening up a little bit, and then follow up by flushing it out of the whole leg, as we talked about, moving it up to your axilla, your armpit, or your opposite groin area. Okay, so once we've done this side of the ankle, let's move around to this side of the ankle. And again, you can take a flat hand if that works for you, or you can take fingertips and just kind of pull that skin up 5 to 7 times. And I don't know if you can see what I'm just taking your fingertips and really going behind the ankle and focusing on pulling that skin upwards. Or another way you could do it is with both hands. Take your hands and pull that skin upwards. Try not to slide your hands on the skin, but really pulling on that skin. It's pretty helpful. So once we've cleared the ankle, now let's look at the foot. And I'd say just put a hand on the foot if you can do this, if you can reach. And you're just going to do a stationary circle on top of the foot. Just stretching best you can. Five to 7 times here. But a lot of times the fluid on the top of the leg can be kind of puffy, and you might need to spend a little bit more time here, and that's perfectly fine. One way to help break some of that fluid up is take your fingertips together, and you can do some stationary circles with your fingertips between the bones that are going up on your foot. So you can do some stationary circles here, and then just keep working across your foot, between each of the bones in your foot, up 5 to 7 times in each area. You can go between each of the bones, kind of in a linear fashion here. Just you can follow up with your hand, just pulling that skin. Remember the tempo. Remember, at this point of the MLD, you might feel like you want to quit, but let's just kind of keep with the tempo. Don't go too fast. Just pull on that skin. We're almost done. And then once you get to the toes, you can work from the base of the toe up to the tip of the toe, and you can use your thumb to do a stationary circle at the base of the toes. You can use your fingers. So 5 to 7 times at the base of the toes, then work up at the tip of the toes, just kind of getting that tissue and then moving it on down to your foot. And then work on the second toe, and the base of the toe, just some stationary circles that you have here, and work all the way up to the toenail, and then slide it all back down. And then with the next toe, just work at the base, just doing stationary circles. You're moving that skin towards your body, and then you're going to work out towards your toenail, and then slide it on back down. Now we're going to work on the fourth toe, up by the toenail. Kind of depends on which hand reaches better. And then slide it all back down. We're working on the little toe at the base, up towards the toenail, sliding that all down. Now we just do follow-up moves, going all the way up the leg. So you're going to take your flat hand and do some stationary circles on top of the foot. And again, if you want to spend more time in this area, if this is an area that you're able to reach and it's a problem area, you can take that skin and just keep working that. But after you've done that, we can just keep following up, working up the leg. Let's say first I'll work up at the front of the leg, just doing kind of a pump, or we can just do a stationary circle. We can stay with that all the way up. We can do what we were doing before, just follow-up moves, pulling all that tissue up, relax, and up, relax, going behind the knee. We'll work this bottleneck area again. And we'll move that tissue from the inside out. We work the knee, top of the knee, stationary circles, just following it up. And where do we want to go? But up to the armpit on the left side and the inguinal nodes on the right side. So we're going to just follow up all the way up. So first let's go up to the armpit, all the way up, follow-up moves. Really focus on stretching the skin. Stretch the skin as much as you're able, all the way up to the armpit. Stretch the skin across the groin. Again, remembering if you have primary at that point, you can also work those lymph nodes into the groin. You could, if you've got primary, you can just work on this area. Work over here, pushing the fluid to the opposite inguinal node region. Excellent. And now before we end, let's finish up by doing some deep abdominal breathing, because think of it, we've pushed a lot of fluid, we've activated the gut. We want to activate Grand Central Station one more time. So let's just take your hands on your belly and on your belly button, and go take a good deep breath in through your nose and breathe air out. Good. And breathe air in and breathe air out and breathe air in. And this time when you think of breathing air out, think of steaming up a mirror, just really giving it your all. And great. Congratulations, you finished clearing the left lower extremity.